This is Ashish again. We started a company called Socrati, me and a couple of other co-founders in 2009, and we sold Socrati in 2017, just about last year, to Dentsu. And post that, we've started OnlineSales.ai with a vertical play to build an e-commerce marketing and analytics platform, enabling acquisition marketing, retention marketing, and monetization for e-commerce businesses like yourself. And very glad to partner with Shopify and bring you this webinar and share my thoughts and experiences on how e-commerce businesses like yourself can compete with the market leaders like Amazon, Flipkart, and Paytm, apart from working with them as well, right? So I'll quickly jump into it. I know we've spent some time in figuring out the technical issues, so I'll quickly jump into the content of the webinar. At a high level, just wanted to share some stats. So e-commerce market in India and in Southeast Asia overall is poised to grow significantly fast. We are expecting about 5x growth over the next 6 to 8 years, from about $40 billion to about $200 billion by 2026. As you see, we're doing already about 1 to 1.2 million transactions per day. With the 4G coming in, mobile transactions are just taking over the desktop already, right? And there's a whole new wave of tier 3 and tier 4 customers joining the bandwagon, with about another about 200 odd million people expected to join over the next couple of years, and then be eligible as e-commerce consumers out there. And just at a high level, if you see this pie chart, and if you notice, Amazon basically covers about 31% of total e-commerce sale share, and Flipkart leading it with about 37% of the share. So if you combine Flipkart along with, let's say, Jabong and Myntra, it's about roughly 39% is what kind of they own. And all the e-commerce businesses, on the mid-market, growing e-commerce businesses, let's say on building on Shopify or other platforms, basically we are in the yellow share, which is about 16%. And it becomes important for us to basically carve out our niche and protect and grow in the ecosystem out there. So I'll be sharing some tips and some knowledge, not tips, but some experiences and knowledge in terms of what could be important for e-commerce businesses to basically adopt and then ride the next wave of growth over the next 5 years in India. Yeah. So basically, what do you need to adopt? And then first and foremost, data analytics and technology at the heart of it. If you think about it, Amazon, Flipkart, all these companies are built on the back of strong data about the user behavior, about the merchandise behavior, and strong technology, right? So that's something is pivotal to their growth that they've seen over the last 10 years in the market, followed by personalization. So how do you use and leverage data and technology? One of the angle is basically that I'll be diving in deeper is basically personalization and virtual experiences on your site or your app that you have. And how do you make sure that the shopping experience of the end users are as seamless and as personalized as possible? And lastly, basically, how do you basically manage, and calibrate, with plethora of channels to acquire and retain customers from a performance marketing standpoint, right? So I'll quickly jump into the first part, right? So some actionable tips and some knowledge sharing with you guys. So first one, right? It's very interesting having worked with about 400 plus e-commerce businesses in India, right? Of variety of sizes, right? So we've served clients who have about $100,000 of GMV annually, to all the way to the likes of Flipkart and Snapdeals of the world. What is starking is that a lot of folks focus on the near-term last sale as against really figuring out the profitable shoppers. What I mean by that is most of the folks focus on the transactional value let's say it can be margin, sales, or orders, number of orders, how many orders did I get yesterday. It's the LTV of the users that you are acquiring, right? What I mean by LTV is basically customer lifetime value. Most of you guys must be knowing this, but just stating it out for the obvious reasons. It could be total purchase value of the user within, let's say, 12 months of their first purchase. So what's the repeat value, and with what value do the user come back to you? And so here's one example. Let's say the first purchase was made of only $25. 2 months later, the user comes back, makes a purchase of $100. And so on and so forth. So let's say over the next 6 months, he made about 4 or 5 purchases on your site. The customer lifetime value in this case would be $375, right? But now when you slice and data, you would want to actually maximize the customer lifetime value and acquire customers who would actually exhibit the maximum lifetime value that will be good for your business out there. What I mean by that is when you slice and dice the data, you may discover that the first purchase, right, indicates, and the first shopping experience dictates a lot on what the customer lifetime value would be. So let's say if you're a store and selling apparel, bags, belts, jewelry, and shoes, right? And when you do marketing or when you do merchandising, right? I mean, it's basically we only figure out, let's say, hey, what's my average cost per order and what's my current margins, and we optimize towards that. But what you would figure if you start slicing and dicing the data is that if the first purchase happens in a particular category, the lifetime value is different than otherwise, right? So in this example here, the customer lifetime value differs on multiple categories depending on what the first purchase of the user would be, right? So if someone buys a jewelry from this particular store, the customer lifetime value typically that exhibits over the next 12 months is about $800, as against if the first purchase was belts, right? So now when you are figuring out campaign strategy, right, would you want to sell belts more often versus not? Or what would be the ideal cost per order that you would want to spend on belts versus on jewelry, right? I mean, a lot of decisions can actually be dictated basis that, right? And for this, you would first and foremost need to own the audience data and have a strong, at least 1 or 2 data analytics folks to help you slice and dice this data and figure out, where your most profitable customers lie, right? Some more examples. See, here what we've done is we have pivoted lifetime value by category. You can actually pivot the lifetime value by discount, right? So if the purchase of the customers happened to be on a product which was discounted, say 21 to 40%, exhibits the highest lifetime value, as against marketing only the highest discounted products versus the low discounted products, right? And this may differ differently by different storefronts out there and the experiences that you exhibit. But this becomes very important to suggest your marketing teams, your analytics teams, your merchandising team in terms of how do you price your products, how do you market your products, which products you would want to push in the market out there, and then get and acquire customers for your own store, right? And this is like another example, like how does the lifetime value gets pivoted by different channels, right? Should we focus more on Google, on SEO, on Facebook, on direct, etc., right? I mean, that will also help you figure like how do you allocate your different budgets or investments on different channels out there. I'll go through the next piece here. So just like how you discover your profitable customers or shoppers out there, you would need to also figure out what's your most profitable SKUs, right? I mean, see, the life of retailers revolves around your merchandising and your audience, right? And focusing on the dynamicness of the SKU becomes extremely important. And it's again amazes me that like almost 80 to 90% of the retailers that we have worked with over the last 7-8 years in India really have no science or they don't apply a lot of science when, let's say, determining product pricing for that matter, right? So let's say if you're selling a shirt, would you want to price the shirt at $20 versus $21 versus $18.5, right? Is there a science behind it, or is it a gut call? More often than not, it's almost always a gut call, right? And which again doesn't bode too well, because the likes of Amazon and Flipkart and all these guys, I mean, they spend tons of data and analytics to figure out the most optimal price at the right time of day and the day of week for the right user at the same time, right? So again, just how we pivoted the LTV by different categories, you can actually pivot the LTV by at a SKU level as well. Move on to the next one. Um, you would need to plot that what maximizes sales at different price point for each SKU, right? Or at least the top most performing SKUs, right? So a lot of times you may not get, or you may see a drop in your site sales. It may also happen. Like a lot of retailers actually work with Amazon or Flipkart, etc., where you publish your catalog on those sites, and Amazon does dynamic pricing on its site, or you would have set some rules on Amazon, and many a times that we've seen that your site has a different price than Amazon. Now what you're doing here is it's almost never a good idea to price at least higher than what you're selling at on Amazon or Flipkart, etc., because you will not capture the user details if a sale happens on Amazon, and of course you're paying a very hefty commission to Amazon on every sale out there. So in this scenario, of course, the sales will drop on your site, and people would rather prefer shopping on Amazon. And you're not building a lifetime value experience on your site for the users coming in, right? So that doesn't help, and this is another fallacy that a lot of folks fall into. So again, and then the left chart basically discovers what is the right price point for every different SKU, and data and doing an A/B testing on your site actually can help quite a lot in discovering the right price, at least for your top performing or top grossing SKUs out there, right? And doing some time, spending some time figuring out how are you priced against similar products in the industry. You get tons of analytics on Amazon for that matter, where you can actually benchmark yourself and the SKUs that you have, how you're discounting it, how you're pricing it against the industry, and how is the conversion rate and how the sales are shaping up by different price points out there. And same thing on the other angle of benchmarks like out of stock rate, average product pricing, the new product introduction frequency, that all of these factors will exhibit and help you increase the LTV of the users and the experience on your site out there. The next one, what I would like to talk to you guys about is basically how do you make the product team also go on the revenue targets on your site, right? Again, from my experience, what I've seen is the entire pressure or the most of the pressure of achieving a certain GMV targets for your own store or the sales targets falls squarely on, let's say, the marketing teams out there. But marketing team is just one partner in the whole puzzle. The other partner is, of course, the product, and which is your store or your app and the experience thereof, right? So a typical funnel that you guys monitor is let's say, hey, how many visits happened, how many views, add to carts, and checkout completes, right? There are a lot of hidden parameters when you would see that creates drop-offs, right? And that needs to be fixed. Actually, rather more on a higher priority than, let's say, the marketing team out there. So how much of time is a person spending on your site? So time spent viewing or browsing. How many products has someone browsed in a particular session? Or how many categories has he browsed in a particular session? Right? Has he clicked on any of the offer upsells or cross sells or your personalization widgets out there or not? Right? What are the page load times on different SKU pages or different page types on your site? What's the page load time on, let's say, your app or MWeb out there? So a lot of those things dictate the shopper experience out there. I'll give you an example, right? How do you simplify the user experience out there? So let's say if someone goes to your site, quickly searches or tries to load the site, and let's say the site load time is anywhere higher than 4 seconds. There's a study actually done by Google and Akamai together that every 1 second of delay beyond 4 seconds creates a 7% reduction in conversions. So now if you have a page load times of, let's say, 10 seconds or 15 seconds, a lot of people just drop off before even the page actually gets loaded, right? So that's the first red flag. But let's say if the user continues forward and makes a search, cowboy shoes. Now, a lot of folks actually deploy exact match kind of algorithm on searches, right? So cowboy shoes would work, but let's say on the search results product, you would see these two products which are not actually cowboy shoes. So 2 out of 6 products are not necessarily as relevant to what my search query has been. Now, all these things are owned by your product and actually, or your product team, and actually makes up to the overall shopper experience and the conversion rates on your site, right? So this is something that has to be taken far more seriously, because the more the more relevant the experience and more personalized the experience is, it's very obvious that the conversion rates and your marketing funnel and your LTV is going to be much higher out there, right? Now, let's say if he still clicks on product, tries to add to cart, and then there may be a pop-up, right? I mean, we've seen a bunch of sites having a lot of pop-ups that could be somewhat irritating to the users, where while I'm trying to add to cart and trying to check out, you're asking me to sign up, or there's a pop-up or of offer, etc. So timing of these pop-ups again become very important, right? So when do you want to show the pop-up? Not when I'm on the checkout journey, but when I'm trying to exit, or when I'm trying to spending more time on a particular product, do you want to show the pop-up or not? So the timing of it and the rules on when and when not to show the pop-up becomes very important out there, right? So these are all the red flags that basically creates a lot more drop-off points in the funnel, and and you got to make sure that the product teams are working continuously to actually identify and fix these red flags out there, right? So the most simplified experience, as we all know, right? I mean, so you search for it, it loads very quickly within 3 to 4 seconds out there. You search for it, you have all the right, the search results are shown in the most relevant way, right? You add to cart, and that is where you actually, instead of a pop-up, you can actually have a native upsell, cross-sell here, saying, hey, you're trying to buy a cowboy shoe, do you want to complete the look, for example? Then maybe the hat, and then cross-sell and increase the potential order, the cart value or the order size out there, and give an option to the guy, I mean, to the shopper, whether he wants to express checkout, or do we want to sign up for, let's say, a promotion, or to get 100 rupees in coupon or something like that. Or he might as well check out as a guest, right, in 1 click or 2 clicks of sorts, right? And that basically deserves a much better experience. So instead of signups, or instead of the pop-ups, if we focus well on, let's say, the conversion and the overall shopper experience, the chances of this guy coming in back or referring other guys to your site becomes much higher out there, right? So that's basically the nutshell of how do you guys can help identify these red flags to your product teams and help your site experience to be as simple, and then allow a more personalized and relevant experience to your shopper, and then help him check out as quickly and easily as possible, right? So this is an interesting stat again. If you realize, and if you go back in your CRM, right, and if you do some analytics there, you would realize that almost 30 to 40% of the revenue is actually generated by about 8% of your customers. So what we internally call it as hero customers. I mean, these are your hero customers, the more loyal customers who would keep coming back to your site and make more and more purchases out there, right? So it's super important to actually increase this cohort of customers that exhibits this kind of a repeat / higher lifetime value on your site. And the last section that I would want to talk about is the cross-channel marketing and automation out there. So, as you would see, right, I mean, there's a lot of marketing channels that are getting that emerging, and it's not only just paid channels. So you have Google Shopping, search, display, the usual, the Facebook, Instagram, Amazon, sponsored products, etc. You have non-paid channels, essentially page boosts or post boosts on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email, etc. There is SEO. There's just sample set of websites that we have or channels that we have actually put together here. Or you may have even your own channel, let's say chatbot on your own site, a product recommendation widget, or an exclusive offers, or just like the upsell widget that I showed you earlier, or the exit pop-ups, etc. Right? So there are a bunch of these channels, and if you realize, right, I mean, a shopper actually has multiple touch points before he actually decides to make a purchase. in the most simplest of the scenario, and I don't think so simplest of the scenario, let's say someone searches for the product, sees your ad, goes to your site and just buys in the same session. Unfortunately, that typically doesn't happen, right? So in more reality, I mean, the conversion path of the shopper is super complicated, right? So in reality, let's say someone searches on Google, sees your ad, visits your site, right? Maybe adds to the cart but doesn't check out, he drops off. Then maybe he sees, I mean, you're running, let's say, remarketing campaign, he sees the ad again on Facebook, right? He clicks on the checkout, right? And again doesn't finish the checkout, and then you send an email marketing campaign that reminds him, saying, hey, why don't you come back and complete your checkout? And he basically comes back to your site, searches for the product again, and maybe he checks out, right? So if you think about it, the path the path to conversion has multiple touch points, right? Now, if you look at an individual set of reports, so let's say if you pull report from Google, right, Google AdWords or whatever, it'll show you one conversion. Facebook will also report you one conversion because it also had a touch point. Email will also show you one conversion, and so is a direct traffic will also show you one conversion out there. So the actual conversion one being reported as 4 by different reports out there, right? So that multi-touch attribution becomes very important, right? Because the very few customers who would just basically click on one channel and just finish the purchase in the same session out there. So how do you solve, or whether do you guys currently solve for it or not? And it becomes even more challenging if different channels are being managed by different tools or by different agencies or by different teams altogether, right? So I'll tell you why. Right, so if you do only first click attribution model, right, then Google will show that, hey, I got a conversion rate, and you would end up discounting Facebook and email out there. If you do last click attribution, it may be the website or SEO might be taking the credit for the conversion, and you would end up discounting and penalizing Google and Facebook and all of that, right? Essentially, with different tools and different agencies managing different channels, etc., it's kind of a racetrack if you think about it. Everyone is trying to get the credit of one purchase, and everyone trying to report it so, right? And with that internal competition between the channels itself, because everyone is trying to get the larger share of your wallet. So let's say if you have $10,000 of marketing spend, right? Google team or Google tool will want to have a larger share of your wallet, and Amazon, and so would Facebook, and so would let's say Instagram, and so on and so forth, right? So, and hence the attribution conflicts happen, and internal conflicts happen, unless you fix it with the right attribution models out there, right? And there are multiple attribution models which are possible that you can apply on your own data. At Amazon, we used to actually apply a time decay based model on paid channels only. So we would discount, I mean, we would work on free channels like email or SEO in its silo, right? But on paid channels, we would attribute, do the attribution on the conversion and distribute it based on the time decay. So if the latest click was on Facebook and the Google click was about 2 days earlier, right, you would attribute 0.65 of one purchase to Facebook and 0.35 to Google, right? Of course, there's a log formula on this one. So depending on the decay between two touch points, the attribution changes out there. Some folks attribute it across all marketing channels, but not the direct channels, direct or SEO kind of channels. So you can attribute it across email, Facebook, and Google in a similar fashion, and depending on the time decay from purchase to the touch points out there. Or if you do it across all the touch points, as you would see, then Google gets 0.1 of the credit, 0.2 goes to Facebook, 0.3 goes to email, and this needs to basically gets translated into your marketing campaigns and value of every ad or a keyword that gets optimized for, right? You can actually deploy Google Analytics for doing this. I think it has time decay based modeling, etc. It gives you amazing insights. There are just two caveats there. It works great as basic high-level analytics, but it's not directly actionable, right? So while you learn few things on Google Analytics, how do you now translate this to multiple channels, multiple teams, and multiple tools out there? And Google Analytics doesn't necessarily work very well with non-Google products, right? So, for example, Facebook, Instagram, or DoubleClick for that matter, or Criteo for that matter, it doesn't necessarily work too well in terms of attribution, etc. So that's just a caveat there out there, right? So like if you think about it, the usual the usual journey of of trying to acquire or retain a customer is super complicated, right? I mean, if you see on this chart on the left hand side, you have remarketing campaigns, you have optimizations, you have Bing, Facebook, Google, Instagram, email, mobile, and then you would have a team to optimize for creators, visual designers, your product team managing product feed, right? All of that, right? But at online sales, basically, the whole aim and the vision is for us to simplify that life by bringing and converging all these channels, all these capabilities, analytics, marketing, creatives, product feed management, all of that on a single platform, so that it basically helps you basically analyze your customer lifetime value and increase customer lifetime value across all channels and all touch points of the user on a single platform out there, right? Instead of you having to work with multiple different tools and then teams out there. So that's basically what we do at online sales. And before I part, right, just wanted to showcase. I mean, we have our traditional app on Shopify, which you guys can check it out. Which is AI-led cross-channel marketing across Google, Facebook, Instagram, and Amazon out there. We've about recently, beta tested one of our personalized product discovery widget that we tested on about 10, actually 15 retailers, and they've seen about 5x higher conversion rates on engaged users. People who engage with the discovery widget convert at least 5 times higher than otherwise. So would love to offer you guys like an exclusive 30-day free trial. If you guys want to try it out for your own store, please drop in a line to us to hi@OnlineSales.ai. Would love to give you a quick demo. You can get started in literally 5 minutes. Right, no tech or engineering bandwidth required from your end. It's a simple 2-click, and you can actually make this personalized product discovery widget live. Thanks to our deeper integration with Shopify there. So simply drop in a line to us, hi@OnlineSales.ai, and we'll get back right to you. I'll open the floor for questions if you guys have any. We have a few questions which I'll cover, but feel free to ask any more questions out there. Yeah, so one of the question someone has asked is, so do you think by giving a shopper a combo deal will have a higher impact on LTV? Of course it will, right? I mean, so it will have a higher impact on LTV. Like in our example where we showed that someone was looking for a cowboy shoe, right? And if you start showing him a combo deal, saying, hey, if you also buy a hat along with it, and you will get a 5% discount, right? That is where that cross-sell, upsell would happen, right? You're increasing the order value, and you're also giving an amazing experience to the shopper, saying that, hey, it's amazing, I got an exclusive deal for myself because I'm buying 2 products instead of 1, which is not otherwise available independently on the site. If I buy these 2 products separately, I will probably not get it. So whatever helps to increase the shopper experience will definitely help increase the lifetime value out there. We can share the PPT with you guys. Someone asked, would you share a PPT? We will share. I mean, if you guys can drop in a line to hi@OnlineSales.ai, would love to share a PPT with you. This same PPT. The other question that I have is, what is the average conversion rate for an Indian user? Well, I mean, so obviously there's a wide range because that depends on categories out there. It's a wide range. So from a visit to conversion rate, we have seen, let's say about 2% to 4% for lifestyle products. Let's say like apparel or shoes, jewelry, watches for a mid-priced products out there, right? So I'm not talking about luxury brands or luxury jewelry sites where if you're selling high-end, high-priced products on jewelry, I mean, the conversion rates are typically about 0.5% to 1%. On the site, whereas more hard good products, and when I say hard goods, it's like electronics or tools or kitchen appliances and so on and so forth. The conversion rates are typically in the range of 4 to 8% on the site. And again, a lot depends on the site experience, the source of the shopper, the price points that you're selling it at, etc. There are a lot of variables out there, but that's the broad range that you guys have. So another question that I have is, let's say for shoes shopping in e-commerce, how many days it takes them to convert? That's a very interesting question. So we've done some research on that. We've seen in, let's say, a shoes as a category, it takes typically about 7 to 8 sessions on an average for a person to convert. Now that session or that touch points, if you think about it, could be within the site, right? It could be built in within the site. So let's say the person browses about 3 or 4 products on your site, goes out, sees another ad or an emailer or a mention on Instagram, etc. Right? So about 6 to 8 touch points that we've seen on an average in lifestyle products that it takes for a shopper to convert and make a purchase. So one question I have, how do you improve the search results? And it's going back to the slide that I've shown, that how a lot of folks use exact match on the title, basically, right? I mean, that's the most I would say easy to implement as a search result, but it's not necessarily very comprehensive, right? So let's say if I search for if on a particular site, if I search for prom dress, right, in singular, it will show me a different result versus if I search for prom dresses in a different result, and it will show you a different result. And sometimes in a lot of sites we've seen that just by changing plural to singular, the site actually shows that there are no search results found, right? So there are a lot of open source tools like on Solar and using Elasticsearch as well, that you can actually have some fuzzy logic built in. There are some open source off-the-shelf products as well that you guys can use to improve the search results. But on an average, folks use Solar that takes care of some nuances like singular plurals or misspells, or going beyond just title and description, but figuring out searches across different attributes of your product catalog as well. So let's say if you have an attribute called red, but red shoes, but in your title red doesn't appear at all, the search results expand beyond just title and description to actually search and then takes in all the context and metadata about the product and builds into the Solar search engine as well. There is one question here: is it a good thing to compete with Amazon/Flipkart during their individual big billion days? No, I mean, of course not. What I would say, you would, of course, you have your site, etc. But I wouldn't pump in a lot of marketing money during those days, because they are going all out, on TV, on outdoor media, of course online. They cover the entire canvas to get as many shoppers on their site, and they discount the product by a hell lot. So competing, especially on those days, and you increasing your budgets and trying to increase volume on your site, may not work out unless your site, of course, has a very niche set of products, right? So if the products that you're selling and similar products are also available on Amazon and Flipkart, right, I would personally say that you can actually lower down your marketing budget for those days and reserve your marketing budget for the days where you have a slightly more open canvas to market and acquire customers. If you guys have any questions, you guys can reach out to me directly as well at Ashish@OnlineSales.ai. Feel free to drop me or our team a note. We're happy to share this PPT or any more questions or insights that you guys would want to have. And yeah, do check us out on Shopify App Store. And would love to share some more insights post that as well. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the time.